So we've been talking about physical exercise and connectedness. What are the other skills that can be really helpful in terms of sort of lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, learning a new skill is something which we have increasingly realised is a very powerful tonic, both in terms of protecting us from any potential future depression or anxiety, but also as a way of lifting our mood or managing anxiety. Now the skill could be anything. It needs to be sufficiently challenging that you feel a sense of accomplishment in it, but not so difficult or so challenging that we abandon it or feel that we've undershot. Different people have done different things. It certainly doesn't need to be in any way academic. A lot of people learn basic household tasks that maybe previously they'd shied away from, like changing a socket, a plug, doing grouting in the bathroom,
cooking, I suppose.
Cooking, absolutely, yeah. Cooking's an interesting one though, because people tend to not feel that it's a skill.
Okay.
They feel as though it's just a utilitarian instrumental thing that you do because you've got to do it. However, it is a very important one actually, because cooking is skillful. Mm. So most people know how to boil an egg and so on, but the trick is to do it right. I really like Indian food.
Right.
Okay. But I don't really know how to make a good curry.
Yeah.
I tend to buy them
or buy a pre-made sauce.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's actually a very interesting one, because the combination of different spices and the amounts makes a difference. And marinating is a big complex aspect of that. And there are different schools of thought around whether you should marinate in yogurt cream or marinate in cream and add. Yeah. And it kind of doesn't matter, because if the skill is you being able to learn how to do it in a way that allows you then to play around with the recipes, and of course if you're able to taste it yourself and you're happy with it, that's enough. But there's a pleasure in having other people try it and seeing how they respond to it. You know, different people like different types of curry, a little bit more hot, a little bit less hot, a little bit more mild, and that's fine. But my point here simply is that it's good to set yourself a particular goal that's quite specific. It's more than the normal sort of thing, yeah. Also some
arts, crafts. I
suppose,
suppose,
absolutely, yes, arts and crafts. The double benefit there is that you can go back to something maybe you did at school or previously, but also you can take it to the next level. Yeah. So, for example, some people have always been quite good at drawing and like drawing, and then they can learn the skill maybe of working with acrylic paints, which are much easier to use nowadays because of the chemical composition. There is so much supply now that the cost of painting, getting the materials, is a lot cheaper than most people realise. Yeah. You don't need to have a big studio, you don't need to have anywhere in particular at all. And there's any number of classes where you can roll on, roll off just to get a little bit of guidance in it. So certainly arts and crafts. As I say, the trick is to try and, if you want to do it as a pastime to enjoy it, just to have a little bit of leisure, that's fine. But to get the benefits of learning the skill, then you need to sort of define what your target is. Maybe give yourself a timeline, but not be too hung up on that. Ask yourself, well, what can I currently do that I can bring to bear to this skill, and what are the extra bits that I've got to learn in order to achieve that.
One interesting thing that I have come across, I think particularly for older carers, the University of the Third Age.
Oh yes.
So the University of the Third Age often do, I think free or I think they're free or very, very heavily subsidised courses, and they can be along almost sort of university type modules. You can learn about history or learn a language. But one of my relatives did wine tasting.
Oh, right, okay.
And I think off the back of that they did one on French history and their courses, and that they helped stretch them, and they were reading books and studying, but also it does the social interaction,
Yes.
because you're with a group of people who are also learning and studying together. So.
Yeah, no, indeed. And you've picked it up on some of the kind of ancillary benefits of learning. If you learn on your own, to your own time frame, that's absolutely fine. But if you learn with other people, you're socialising, so you're getting the connectedness as well. You can talk with that person about the thing you're learning, that you're both learning about. If you go to a meetup for people who want to meet each other, that's fine, but not everyone can sort of dip into kind of conversation about how the weather and what you're doing these days. It's okay, and some people find it safe to have that sort of bland conversation. But if you can sit down with someone else who's obviously interested in French history and have a chat about the French Revolution, the conversation looks after itself. So that's absolutely fantastic. So that's another benefit. Just little things in my experience which just got to be a little bit careful about. Some people say, oh gosh, I'd love to, I've always wanted to play the piano. Right, which is great and fine, and if your threshold is just to play Happy Birthday on the piano, that's fantastic. Just something like to play the piano really well. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of practice, and if you're going to commit to it, that's fantastic, then go for it. But just be aware of what it is you're committing to, because you don't want to be disappointed. Learning.
Well, I suppose exercise is another good example.
Yeah.
So I've seen some people who may take on a very ambitious role. So they may say, well, I want to run a marathon. And you say, okay, well, if you've never run a marathon, that's fine as an ambition. But for a lot of people, particularly if they're quite sedentary, that's a year and a half or 2 years away. And actually having smaller things that say, I'm going to set a target of being able to run a mile. Or, being able to walk a 5-mile walk, so so chunking them up and having kind of achievable goals.
Definitely. There are lots of benefits, of course, if you decide to learn a new skill with the person you're caring for. That may not always be a realistic proposition, but it is something that you can explore. But again, I would come back to the idea of, you shouldn't feel guilty if you want to learn something for your own benefit, on your own, with your own time. You do need that space, you've earned it, and it will make you a better carer, it will make you more resilient, it will make you more, provides a buffer for your self-esteem when things aren't going well.
I think actually that's a really good point, that although we're talking about this in terms of people benefiting themselves and improving their own mental health, you're right, one of the big side effects of that is it does make you a better carer.
Oh, yeah.
If you're tired and you're very stressed and you're anxious or you're depressed, your ability to provide good care, it diminishes. So it's not entirely. So if some people feel, does this feel a bit selfish? I'm just talking about myself, and it does have that big impact on the people you're caring for.
Definitely. I do know a lot of carers, if their partner or the person they're caring for is struck by an illness which they themselves, the person who is about to become a carer, doesn't know anything about, they read voraciously about that topic, and that's perfectly understandable. That's of course that's absolutely fine. In terms of learning a new skill or learning about something, there is benefit in learning something that's nothing to do with the caring at all, because being a good carer, I think requires many skills, many angles, many things to be mobilised. But it is that balance, I think, between being able to understand what is effective in caring and that caring relationship, alongside, in balance, the person you are. And if either of those becomes too strong, then the other element will potentially be a little bit at risk. So it is always about that balance. And as you say, people should not feel bad about doing things that look after themselves, because they've got a right to that, and it makes them a better carer. So in terms of learning, there's lots of different options. Where possible, be clear about what it is you're trying to achieve, but be flexible. If you can chunk it and break it down into intermediate steps, that's good. There are many side effects, side benefits, such as meeting other people and being able to chat. And the more that you're able to show someone else the output from that new skill, then it's a little bit, who wouldn't want to feel good about showing off a new skill? And the other things which are generally recognised to be good for mental health management fall under the heading of compassion. Now, this is something which has become more of interest to healthcare professionals, psychotherapists, counsellors in the past few years, because we realise now that very often when someone's not at their best, suffering from anxiety or depression, part of what's going on is that they have set to one side some of those human tendencies, those human values which previously might have been a big part of their life. So when you're depressed or anxious, there's a tendency to not be kind to yourself, and indeed not to be kind to other people. It's a protective element. Empathy becomes a little bit more difficult, partly because of motivation to understand other people is lower, partly because the number of times you will meet other people is fewer, because you are withdrawing very often from social engagements. Being kind to other people, being kind to yourself is very important. I often talk to clients about the hand of kindness, which isn't, hand of kindness. It's actually a little reminder. I say, your thumb represents one thing that you're going to do this week proactively. You're going to decide to be kind to someone else. Frankly, I don't care who, I don't care how, that's for you to decide, but you should write it down in advance before you do it. And then they say, well, Patrick, what's the other 4 things? I say, well, I'm glad you asked. Those are the 4 opportunities you will find this week to be kind to someone. I don't know where they are or what they are, and frankly, neither do you. But you will know them when you see them. And what I'm asking you to do is to be compassionate and to be kind to someone when you get the chance. And it will probably come out of the blue. It won't be, someone knocking randomly on your door asking for an organ transplant. It'll be very mundane. It might be as mundane as just holding the door open for someone who's a little bit further away than you kind of need to bother about, but just to be kind to them.
Or stand up for someone on the bus.
Stand up for someone on the bus, giving money to people in the street, that's, I know there's different views, but, if you classify that as being kind, then it counts, Why? Well, the proactive one is to make sure the person thinks about it quickly. I mean, when we're doing it by ourselves, it's good to say, right, this week I'm going to really focus on kindness as part of my compassion development or compassion reconnection. So that gets you started. The other 4, it's to help us when we're walking down the street or connecting with people at work, our antennae are a little bit sharper for looking at opportunities to be kind. If you are living your life on a habit that's driving anxiety, constantly worrying about things, and having that habit of thinking, if I don't worry about this thing, it won't go away, which is a bad habit. Or if you're into the habit of thinking, I'm not quite sure what my boss meant by that, but I think it was negative and I think he's critical of me, that's a bad habit. It's to break through those habits. When we are not at our best, when we're depressed or anxious, we tend to focus on things being threats rather than things being opportunities for us to act on the world.
And ruminating and sort of thought patterns just keep going back and back and back.
It focuses, absolutely. Rumination just keeps us tied and handcuffed to that threat, which might not be a threat, but we cannot let go of it. We think we can't let go of it, but in fact we can, but that's a whole set of techniques to break that habit. But having an individual looking out for opportunities to be kind, and there's nothing phony or tricksy about this, it's just the idea of saying, right, try and not be filtered about threats, try and open it up to the full range of human possibility here, and if you see someone who needs a bit of help, help them. Because without that little plan of the hand of kindness, then you might not even have framed that individual as needing help. You might not have seen the poor chap with the shopping, or the lady with the shopping, who was like 10 paces behind you at the shop. It's not you saw them and thought, can't be bothered helping them. You might have been, and that happens, but you're just not looking for it. If you're looking for opportunities to help, you will see them, because every moment is a possibility of being kind to someone. So the hand of helping is just a little way of giving a tangible, literally tangible example of how to think about the idea of one proactive thing that you plan for, and 4 times
almost reactive,
you
kind
react
of just
to it,
being
yeah.
aware, yeah.
Just to be, because you need to do it, you need to be scanning the environment for opportunities, and that makes you connect again with that side of you that may have been lost a little bit because of the pressures you're under. That side of you that wants to help other people. That side of you that wants to help other people because it's a person. It's a person like you. You don't know them, you have no particular connection to them, but you have that fundamental humanity in you to care for them just in that moment, just to be present in that moment, and to do something that you don't have to do, but makes their life a little bit better. And to connect to that disposition is a powerful way of developing, protecting our mental health.
And also a lot of research in terms of, random acts of kindness, doing kindness to other people, and that you're impacting your own happiness and well-being.
Course,
so
absolutely.
it might not be that you necessarily even identify at the moment as being particularly stressed or having mental health problems, but actually it will help most people lead a happier and more fulfilled life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I do ask people to do the next time I encourage them to do it, is to just make a note of each day's act of kindness, because I think it's important that we see, like you say, we need to see ourselves being kind.
Yeah.
It's not enough to kind of stumble upon it and to dismiss it. It's worth just capturing that, and it's not to make a big deal out of opening the door for someone or giving someone half your sandwich. It is about simply realising that, you know what, the person that used to not care about anything because we felt so bad about ourselves in the world, that person is not a necessary me. That person can be changed. I'm still the same person, but I've reconnected with that side of me that actually knows there are other human beings in the world, and I can help them and they can help me. And that compassion, that recognition of our compassion itself, is a very powerful way of protecting our mental health. The final big area of the 5 areas we've been speaking about is about being present in the moment, and mindfulness and meditation can help us deal with this. In mental health difficulties, very often we have our mind dragging us away from the present moment. When we're depressed, we're often thinking about something that has happened, or something that we think is likely to happen. When we're anxious, we're worried about the future very often, or worried we've made a mistake that someone's going to find out about. And there are ways of dealing with those cognitions, and it's partly through recognising that we have more control over those thoughts than we think, and we have spoken about that. But for protecting our mental health, even when we're not suffering from any problems right now, or if we are suffering from problems, to try and get us back on our feet, just being aware of the present moment is very powerful. So it's about listening to other people, not in order to find out the best chance to put our opinion through, but to listening in order to ask a better question is a good thing, because most of our experience in life is about living in conversations. The situation is a conversation, so listening is very powerful, and it's against a lot of our instincts. People want to have information, but they want to give information too. They want to broadcast, and if we can just be a little bit more alert to the powerful benefits for well-being of really listening to other people in order to understand who they are and what they are, and not caring about how we come across particularly, that is very powerful. There are various activities you can do on your own if you're feeling a bit stressed or just want to keep on top of your mental health. Think about 5 things you can see in the room, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Little things like just keep you alert to the here and now. And a lot of it's about acceptance. There are ways of more or less stopping intrusive thoughts, worrying thoughts coming into our heads. But it's also about being able to tolerate uncertainty. Yes, we don't know if this new medication that your loved one is on is going to work or not. And part of you would like to know if it's going to work. Part of you would like to know right now if the side effects are going to be upsetting and unhelpful. But you don't know, and the best clinician in the world at this moment in time doesn't know either. And it's just to be alert to the fact that when we care for other people, we have a whole set of, we scan their symptomatology, we scan their well-being, scan their behaviours often, scan their reactions, much more than we would normally do. And that's understandable, and it's okay because you are caring for the person. But it does mean that you start to lower your threshold for the level of uncertainty you're prepared to tolerate. Yeah, and the trick is to say, well, actually, what level of uncertainty would be appropriate here, and to gradually increase it so that you feel okay with uncertainty generally.
And I think that can be a particularly big problem if people are going through an active treatment process.
Oh, yes.
And it may be that you're waiting for a test, or you're waiting for results, or a consultant appointment, or as you said, you're taking medication to see what happens. And I think it can be very easy for your mind to be very future focused. It's this thing in 2 months, or this thing in 3 months or 4 months, and actually grounding it in the here and now.
Absolutely.
Because those thought processes often become counterproductive and they can increase anxiety.
Of course. And they also trigger the fear that, oh my goodness, how can I help my partner when I'm worrying so much about different things? Yeah. So the act of worrying itself becomes an input which you worry about. So the more we can reduce the that intolerance of uncertainty, the better. But some thoughts will be there, and it is a question of acceptance sometimes. Your partner is suffering from a chronic disorder. They are going through active treatment. These things are real, and you do have worries about them. But in order to stay on top of your well-being, it's about accepting that certain thoughts will come in, and they are just thoughts. And you can use the metaphor of traffic watching. You're not driving the car; you're watching the traffic go by. You're not on a journey with that thought. That thought does not take you to the truth. You are observing it going past, and that's okay. We want to reduce the traffic. We want to be able to accept more uncertainty about the traffic flow. But you're not in the car, you're not on the journey, it will not take you anywhere. For worries, people tend to do one of two things. They tend to try and embrace it and run through all the what ifs. They try and almost exhaust the worry, but in fact the worry finishes up exhausting us. The other approach is to just totally ignore it altogether, which won't work because it'll just pop back up again. The trick is to postpone the worrying until tomorrow at 7 o'clock, is what you tell yourself. And then of course when it comes to 7 o'clock, quite likely you've forgotten to worry about it. Or you say, well yeah, that issue is real, but for some reason I'm not worried about it right now. Or actually I can't control that, so I've got to set it aside. Or I can just accept it. Or actually there's something I can do about that. Then you deal with it as a specific problem. But the single most potent trick that we can engage in is to say to ourselves, this thought I'm having right now, I'm not going to ignore it, I'm not going to wrap my arms around it and run with it, what if. I'm going to postpone worrying about it until some specific time in the future. And it is an incredibly powerful way of just allowing the thought to go away. And when you get skilled at it, the worries will stop coming because your mind is processing it before it really gets to consciousness. That is a very powerful way. All of these things are ways of managing the present moment, to get more out of the present moment for yourself, to be in conversations that work for both parties, to be able to celebrate the moment as it is, and to recognise that things come into your mind and you can deal with, they are more controllable than you think. You can postpone worrying about them, and that allows you to have a real sense of presence which will help your mental health, and that is one of the 5 big areas that can help protect ourselves.
I hope you found this course helpful. At FCC, we're committed to providing courses and training for unpaid carers, and these courses are completely free. If you found this helpful, you could support our work in 3 ways. Please recommend it to any friends or people that you know that will benefit from the courses. Please consider sharing it on social media. And if you can, please consider donating. There are buttons on the website where you can donate £1, £2, £5, and every pound that you donate will make a huge difference by helping us make more and more care courses completely free to carers. Thank you very much.